My father is a great storyteller. When I was growing up, he loved to tell stories about his family, some true and some not so true. I think it was because he and his brother were the only members of his family to survive the Holocaust. The last time my father saw his parents was 1 week before the Nazis invaded Poland on a train station in Breslau, a city in eastern Germany at the time. He was 14 years old. His brother was also put on a kinder transport, but to England, and my father didn't see him for another 8 years. Apart from 2 photographs that we have of my father with his parents, we have no other photographs and no other physical possessions. But that is beginning to change, and we are learning a little bit more about my family's history, all because of art looted by the Nazis. Probably my father's favorite story was about his uncle, Uncle David Friedman, Uncle David, who owned 10,000 acres of sugar beets and had a distillery. My father described Uncle David as a kindly yet imposing man who powdered his head and liked to give lavish parties for German intellectuals. He also reputedly had the largest art collection in Breslau, all stolen by the Nazis. To me, hearing these stories, Uncle David was never a real person. After all, nobody in our family had ever seen any pictures of him, and I certainly never expected to get back any of the art in the Friedman collection. The possibility that we may actually recover some of his art first surfaced about 4 or 5 years ago when we uncovered a letter written in 1939 to the Secretary of Economics in Berlin. The letter listed items in the Friedman collection, including works by Gustave Courbet, Pierre Pissarro, and other famous painters. It didn't list many of the paintings by name, however. It did list a painting called Two Riders on the Beach by the German Jewish impressionist Max Liebermann. My father remembers the painting hanging in the sunroom of Uncle David's villa in Breslau, mainly because he spent hours there on Kristallnacht waiting for his father to arrange the forced sale of the villa to a famous Nazi general. He was waiting there to bring my grandfather, his father, warm clothes because he was being sent to a concentration camp for the first time. In November of 2013, the prosecutor in Munich announced the seizure of 1,200 works of art from Cornelius Gurlitt, whose father, Hildebrand, was Hitler's principal art dealer. The office probably would not have disclosed it but for a whistleblower, and it's likely that the prosecutor's office would have simply returned the works to Cornelius Gurlitt, but for the whistleblower, to avoid any adverse publicity. The press conference and the seizure were widely reported throughout the world, including on the front page of the New York Times that featured a photograph of 2 riders. We immediately claimed the work as belonging to us. Despite the evidence, my firm was forced to bring suit against the German government to force them to return the painting to us. Since then, we have also uncovered additional information about 54 other works of art as belonging to David Friedman, including one, The Basket Weavers, that was sold by the German auction house Villa Griesbach on behalf of Cornelius Gurlitt's sister, apparently without conducting much in the way of due diligence. Unfortunately, not everybody has been supportive about my family's quest to obtain the stolen art. Some German newspapers have reported that we were in it only for the money because we sold the work so soon after we got it back. Indeed, the money was substantial. It was over $2.5 million. But the real reason is much more mundane. Half of the work half of the painting belonged to my uncle's family. And short of cutting the painting in half and allowing each family to keep one horse, there was no practical way we can keep the painting. What is really remarkable about this story for my family is that how it's offered for the first time an understanding of my father, his family, and his history. Before we began the process, his history was like a blank canvas. But the Friedman paintings tell a story, and that story begins to tell the history of my family, something that I could tell my children and something that my father could never do for me. And I'll give you one small example. We were recently contacted by a 90-year-old woman whose aunt worked for Uncle David in Breslau. And what is simply outstanding about it is the woman read about the story of the two writers in the paper, and she actually remembers visiting Uncle David in his villa in Breslau before the war. And not only that, she has photographs of Uncle David and his daughter Charlotte, who was also killed by the Nazis. And she sent these photographs to us. And this is the first time that anybody in our family has ever seen photographs of Uncle David and Aunt Charlotte. And what is even more amazing is that Uncle David looks almost exactly like my father, and he was blind in his 80s, and my father is blind. So the coincidences are truly remarkable. And this is the story, and our quest for the stolen painting has really created an opportunity for us and filled in a canvas of my family's history that was blank up until now. And we will continue our quest for more of the art so we can fill in the remainder of my family history. Thank you very much.